Dave and Kesenya, welcome to Grimerica. Thanks for joining us. How's it going?
Going
Thanks
great,
for
Graham.
having me.
Yeah, thanks. This will be fun. We're going to talk about upcoming trip to Utah, 420, contacted the cabin. So we're looking forward to that. Dave, you're going to share some visuals with us, I think, too, eh?
You got it. As soon as you're ready, I'll get everybody excited. I'm really looking forward to this event, and it's great to be here with Graham and Darren and Kesenya and all the people out in Grimerica listening. So thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, well, most of us, our listeners, know you, Dave, but we might not know Kesenya. Maybe you could say a few things about yourself, Kesenya, before we jump into it.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Graham and Darren, for having me on your show today. I'm very excited to be here. So I'm an astrologer. Obviously, because of my accent, you can tell I'm from Australia. And yeah, I've been practicing astrology for over 10 years now. So I'm here in that capacity to, I guess, join with Dave and talk about the stars. Looking forward to coming to Utah and meeting you all in person.
And you have where do you practice to people in public? You have a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. It's under my name, Kesenya Moore, if you can spell it. But Guiding Star Astrology is the name of my business. So yeah, I've got quite a lovely following and crew of people who tag along with me each week as I talk about what's happening in the heavens, in the language of the skies. So that's my main platform. But yeah, I do teach astrology as well, do readings for people, and yeah, love to share about astrology whenever I can.
Right on.
You guys speak the same language of the stars, or is it a little different?
Dave's is a little different to mine, but we contribute to one another's, I think.
Yeah, I think this is really all ancient wisdom. The ancient myths from Mesopotamia or ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient China, those people were following what astrologers said. I mean, astrologers were a big deal in Mesopotamia. Astrologers were a big deal in ancient India, in ancient China. And it's part of some ancient inheritance of humanity, some wisdom for, I'm convinced, for our benefit, for our blessing, for individual benefit and blessing, and also societal. It operates on both of those levels that we need today more than ever.
And not
the
only
individual,
the people, and not only the people, but the priest kings and the authorities followed it, right?
They
Absolutely.
still do.
Well, yeah, but we
they all use it. Wall Street uses it.
Yeah. So I think it's really fascinating to, like, Kesenya can tell you what Sagittarius is all about, and in the heavens and the cycles and how those impact our lives. And it's really about knowing yourself. So we all have a different mix of ingredients. If we were a recipe, Graham's got a slightly different mix of ingredients than Darren, than me. But knowing yourself, what could be wrong with that? I mean, it's really essential. In fact, knowing your true self, your authentic self. Over the years, I've become convinced that the myths are about know yourself. And astrology is also about know yourself. And in the ancient Greek oracle at Delphi, or I think in England they pronounce it Delphi, but because
I like
Californian,
Delphi.
I say
I like
Delphi. Yeah. But that's one of the places in the ancient Greek world, the most sacred site of Delphi, that the Python, the god Apollo, the contact with the divine realm, and the guidance for whether we should go to war with the Persians or whatever, all that, that you see in the movie 300, that, and they kind of made the Temple of Delphi kind of a bizarre, it's artistic interpretation. But back to the Temple of Delphi, the ancient writers themselves tell us there were different inscriptions at Delphi, and there's two or three that are mentioned, but one that's mentioned by everybody is at the Temple of Delphi, the place where you go to hear the voice of the gods, know thyself. That is universally said to be at the Temple of Delphi. So the way you hear the voice of the gods, the heavens, has something to do with know thyself. Anyway, astrology clearly has to do with know thyself as well. So that's one of the places where I see a connection. Absolutely. But it's also different, different emphases. Sorry, go ahead, Kesenya.
No, I'm just agreeing. It really, astrology really ties into the ancient Hermetic principles, as above, so below, and all those sorts of things, the polarities. It draws in a lot of ancient wisdom and knowledge because it is an ancient system. And up until the medieval era, people studied it at university, even in the West. So it's fallen from favor for many mysterious reasons, because certain people groups want to keep it in their power. But I think one thing that the revival of astrology at the moment is bringing is giving people the power back to work with the cycles of nature, to understand themselves, as you said. And it's very exciting to see it being understood again nowadays as it was in ancient times, or starting to be at least. Yeah.
Are there any lineages at all for astrologers? Like, how the Reiki lineage comes from Asui or whatever his name is. And it kind of gets passed down. Is there an astrology lineage at all?
I think in places like India there's a lot of grandma practiced it and she taught me, and there's nothing written down but we've received it. So there is that in the Vedic tradition, absolutely, but it's been intentionally wiped out in the West. So there's no real lineage any longer. We are rediscovering a lot of things through ancient texts and manuscripts, and even like the library at Nineveh or Mosul had a lot of astrological knowledge on those tablets that were discovered there, that has yet some of it hasn't been interpreted yet, but a lot of what is really informing our current Western knowledge about astrology. So yeah, we've lost our lineage in the West, but it still is alive in China and in India and places like that, for sure.
I suppose that's kind of what you're doing. You and your contemporaries now is starting new lineages, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's right. In fact, there's a movement in Western astrology to understand the Hellenistic principles and go back to that ancient knowledge. So that's gaining a lot of momentum at the moment. I'm trying to think of the guy who's running that. He runs the Astrology podcast, and he's brilliant. So yeah, there's a big movement towards getting back to our lost lineage again.
And what I was going to say is, it seems like there are, I'm not an expert in it, but in the world of Kung Fu or martial arts, there are different, and sometimes they all hate each other. Like, oh yeah, no. Like even descendants within the same style, have some pretty big variations. Well, which lineage are you from in this style? But it seems to me that in astrology, there are people who focus more on, I don't know, like certain. I'm out of my depth. I'm waiting for you to jump in.
I'll jump in.
There's like all kinds of different approaches to it.
There are
retrograded or whatever, all these different, like, oh well, this person really focuses on that.
Yeah, well, because there's so many facets. There's financial astrology, and we're coming up to a time right now when Pluto is about to change signs on the 23rd of March, and in financial astrology, that's one of the most momentous events whenever Pluto changes signs, because as you would know, Dave, he was the ancient god of great wealth in mythology, and he corresponds to that in astrology as well, to great wealth. And so the financial markets all pay attention when Pluto is moving from one sign to another. So there's financial astrology, there's medical astrology, there's karmic astrology, there's personal astrology, there's world event, like, you name it, there's an astrological stream that will interpret those sorts of things. But what's really factional, if you want to talk about that in astrology, is the Vedic system, which is the Indian system, is based on something called sidereal astrology, whereas the Western system is based on the tropical astrology placements of the planets. And so there's a big divide there and quite a lot of contention and argument between people about which one's right and which one's the one to use. Personally, I use tropical astrology, which is the Western system, because my belief is that we are incarnate in human form on the planet here on Earth, and therefore we're under the influence of the seasons. That's what governs our life, and so therefore I use tropical astrology, which is based on the seasons, the solstices, the equinoxes. I see sidereal astrology as important, but it's based on the constellations of stars and their placement. And so with that in mind, it's much more beyond the solar system. So it's more about our spiritual journey and everything out there in other dimensions and what have you, rather than tropical, which is very earth-centered. So if you want to know about your life on Earth, you use tropical astrology. If you want to know spiritual things beyond that, you'd use sidereal. So
that's a great description. Yeah.
Thank you, because it's hard to sum that up in a nutshell.
Yeah.
It's quite complex.
You were speaking about the financial, the Pluto thing coming up on the 23rd. Would the 22nd/23rd be a great time to unleash a new technology to the world?
Ooh, it sounds like you've got something in mind. It may be. It could also be a bit of a volatile time, but it would all depend on your chart, really. If you're thinking of launching this.
No. I just know of somebody that is.
That is, yeah. Well, you would probably need to look at their chart personally and determine, okay, is Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius going to be beneficial in their chart?
Okay.
If it is, then absolutely go for it. Launch something.
Graham's asking for his friend. George Soros.
George Soros.
I'm asking for my friend Bill Gates. Yeah.
Well, hopefully it's disastrous for them then.
No. This is for Randall and Bendall.
Okay. Great. I was only joking. I'm not in.
It's going to come out very soon. So.
Well, Randall probably has a bit of an idea about astrology.
Well, yeah. I mean, and it's based on the Vajra, like ancient Vedic sort of stuff. I mean, it's fucking fascinating. It's the best Genesis story you could ask for a new energy technology. I mean, it's unbelievable. Right. Wait till you guys see it. It's to me, it's mind blowing. It's truly bringing this.
That's why we come on Grimerica.
It's truly bringing, like it's potentially totally world changing, and it's bringing ancient wisdom to like this new technology that could change the world, right?
Yeah, that is awesome. When I first went on the Snake Bros, the first time I was ever on there, I was talking about the Thunderbolt weapons and Russ.
That's what they say. This is big. That's Russ. From the Vajra, right? That's that weapon Russ. Is the Vajra. It was
either Russ or Kyle goes, "Oh, you mean like a Vajra?" I'm like, well, you don't just hear, guys from Texas say, "You mean like the Vajra?" like every day. I was like, "Whoa, you know about the Vajra?" It's all it's all celestial as well, but that's fascinating. So great. Well, that'll come out before our trip.
Yes, it will.
Ooh, yeah. Could change everything.
Next week.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. This is supposedly, right? So.
Yeah. Well, they've timed it for the equinox on the 21st, the new moon on the 22nd, and Pluto changing signs on the 23rd. So boom, boom, boom. It's a big week next week.
All right. Well,
well done then.
Maybe that's why. Yeah. Awesome. So
great
you want to talk about
Graham? Yeah. Let me show some. So I think it's a great segue to say to people, look, on this trip, you can hang out with Graham. You can hang out with Darren. You can hang out with Kesenya. You can hang out with me. I mean, you can hear my stuff, and I'll talk a little bit about my research, but very little in this towards the end of this presentation, just for people who aren't familiar, but I've been on, a lot of times, so people probably know. You can go read my books or check out my courses online. These trips that you and Darren came up with are really a chance to hang out and just talk and, let our hair down and party and hike. And I'll show some pictures, but why don't you talk a little bit about your concept of contact at the cabin, originally that's the overarching is Contact at the Cabin. This is Darren's brainchild, right, Darren?
Well, I think
Or
we
it's both
both,
of you.
I'm not going to
Okay.
give him full credit.
I'm just joking. I'm just jabbing you, Graham.
Go
It's
for it, Darren.
Darren's idea, right, Darren?
No, it was both of us. You heard him. Tell us how you came up with it, Graham.
But the difference is from like an ordinary conference. An ordinary conference, you kind of sit in the auditorium. I'm just gonna market it for you. You sit in the auditorium. You get like 7 or 8 people come up and talk for a half an hour. Then they disappear. You know, they go home or whatever. You may get a chance to, you know, nudge your way up and talk to them, you know, in a group of people. But you kind of flipped it on its head and said, well, we're just going to invite 2 or 3 people. And, you know, Dave, we want you to be one of the people in the, you know, one of the first ones. Where would you like to do it? And I said, well, Bryce Canyon has some of the best stargazing in the world. And Darren was like, well, who would you like to come with you? And I, you know, I forget who I said, but you came up with Brandon, which I didn't know Brandon Powell that well before, but I listened to some of his interviews on Grimerica. And then when you meet him in person, fantastic. And he's going to be there. I'll show just a few little slides, and I'm sure you're going to have him on or have had him on recently. But that was fantastic. And so it was just, you know, me and Brandon gave different presentations. Brandon led breath work. I talked about the stars. I showed the stars over Bryce Canyon. But most of the time is just hanging out, eating food, you know, taking ice baths with Brandon, you know, partying in the lodge, going on hikes in these amazing, you know, landscapes.
Zion, Bryce, yeah.
Riding around in the van driven by, and it's not too much driving. Like some of the geological tours, we cover almost the whole state of Washington like 10 times with Randall, but this one we're just
Montana one is 2 states. We cover 2 states.
This
Well,
isn't
three,
too much time.
technically.
This is just enough time to get scared of Graham driving on those mountain roads.
They like me driving. I think they feel safe when I'm driving.
I'm joking. Yeah, I feel safe with you driving.
But yeah,
What
this started with a weekend in the woods. I mean, with a bunch of friends, right? I mean, it started like that. We made it to the coast the next year, and we thought we gathered a whole like 20 or 25 of us, just hung out. It's like a weekend long podcast, right? And then we thought we should get some guests to present for us, and we'll make it like an intimate conference type thing, you know? And then we started, after that, we made the big one with Randall, which was 3 groups of people coming through Colorado near the Four Corners to go through the Pueblo and the Chaco Canyon type stuff. I can't remember the actual names of it. And
the first one we tried to do value for value. Where we had no presenters, and it was just we were all going to meet, more friends. Everyone was going to pitch in, but then it like fell apart, and that's kind of how it got monetized, because like at the end of the first one, there was a bunch of money outstanding on the cabin that, you know, kind of it ended up costing Graham and I all of our travel expenses, plus like hundreds of dollars of cabin expenses from people who canceled last minute or didn't pay up, or, you know, just weird little things that happen when you just start telling people on the internet to meet you someplace.
That's always hard.
But anyway, you guys have put on a lot of these now, and they're fantastic. There's you know, special grasses that you can see there. This one's on I don't know who that guy is. He looks like me, but
very short hair.
Now notice that is a Ranger tab right there, from the U.S. Army Ranger School from when I was young. And there's the mighty Coach Chris in the background sitting next to what looks like 2 lightsabers. I don't know what's up with that, but anyway,
that's just the sunshine.
I think that's the sunshine into Darren's green screen. Yeah.
I am going to share my screen and just get this off of the screen.
Sure,
have you, I mean, I'm joking. Look, that was rolled by Brandon Powell himself right there. He's like, try one of these. Yeah, so let me share my screen. Have you enabled screen sharing? Yes, you have. Looks like you have. Let me try.
Contact at the Cabin has changed Dave's life.
It'll change
Look at
your
his
life.
hair now.
Yeah. Smoking
It'll
weed,
change
growing his
your
hair
life.
out.
All right, look.
He's got these popping strockers with the didgeridoo. I mean,
I'm not going to talk for too long with this slideshow, but I just want to show, look, this is kind of, we're less than 1 month away, but there's still openings for those of you who want to come. And it's just fantastic. So this is where we're going. This is a little tile I made for Instagram. Bryce Canyon. This is a picture I took on the trip last year. And it says, get your Thor on. And that's actually a formation at Bryce Canyon. But I mean, look at Bryce Canyon. It is just magnificent. That's that feature that's sticking up above the horizon is called Thor's hammer. And the gods who are in the ancient myths are in the stars, including Thor. There's Thor. He showed up. I managed to catch a picture of Thor just as he was cresting the top of Bryce Canyon. But this is about the gods that are out there in the stars, but also inside of us. This is about our authentic self, recovering who you are. That's what I believe the ancient myths are really all about. So look closely at that picture of Thor's hammer, meet the gods in the stars, contacted the canyons 2023. Look at it closely and imagine that you have a hammer that never misses. Can you imagine if you never missed, like whatever you threw your hammer at, that's what the god Thor's hammer would hit. Whatever it looked at, it would hit. And why is my thing not advancing? Come on. I'm doing this beautiful lead in and the thing isn't working. I had to. Now, imagine you had a hammer that would always hit its target no matter what. That's what happens to you when you come to Contact at the Canyon. So this is the lodge where we stay. You can see it's a rustic, it's actually historic. Like the logs that are out there on the porch, I think are new, but the wall that you see with the window in it and the modern light fixture is all from a 1800s cabin that was, moved here at some particular point. So there's Graham with an energy drink and a Thor's hammer. There's Laura, friend of the show, Laura. She's does a lot of events. Yeah, for Randall and there's the mighty Oliver. I think he was on an event recently with you guys up in, is that correct? You see Oliver? I think
Oliver was just there. Oliver will also be I can't see the screen in a stupid Zoom lately. I don't know why. But Oliver is coming to Utah to help do the cooking again. He'll be helping with breakfast.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well, go get next to Graham so you can see his screen. Otherwise, I won't get any of your witty comments. But anyway, I think Oliver's he's putting a beer down for Graham to smash it with the hammer that never misses. But really, meet the gods. That is what the myths are actually all about. So here's where we go. We take hikes. This is, a dangerous cliff. You can see I position myself to where if I fall off the cliff, I can at least grab that, bush like in the cartoons. I think that's Patrick there with the hat. He's staying a respectful distance away from the edge of the cliff, but there's Bryce Canyon. You can go there with us. We also, this is also Bryce Canyon. It may not look as huge as it really is. I think this is called Wall Street. Yeah, this is Wall Street. Look at, for size, we have one of our Contact at the Canyons attendees right down there. Can you see him? That's how big that is.
Yeah. I hope we don't have to. Do we have to take that hike back up? I mean, that's
you have to go straight up the wall. Yeah, you have to go straight up the wall. You can use hands and feet if your upper body isn't strong enough, but if you're really tough, you just use hands. I'm kidding. It's not that hard of a hike, Graham.
It was pretty bad.
Are you kidding?
But we don't have to do that, right?
Everything is optional on this trip. You don't have to do anything, but there's the trail coming out of the. All right, I'm going to show a few more. This is looking the other direction. It's just glorious. And it is catastrophic. So this is part of, I am convinced there was an ancient catastrophe that separates us from something even older than the Egyptians, even older than Mesopotamia. And I believe that's where this ancient knowledge comes from, because the ancient Egyptians are already using this system the ancient Chinese, ancient India, ancient Mesopotamia are already using this system, but they've already got different myths, even in the most ancient texts that we know of. So I believe the evidence points to something even more ancient. I think you posted something on Instagram today about a massive statue located in Africa that's 20,000 years old and carved into the rock face. Anyway, the evidence that the Snake Bros and that Ben from Uncharted X presents shows that there was some incredible ancient culture predating the most ancient Egyptians that we conventionally acknowledge, that conventional academia talks about. I believe that's where this star myth system comes from, in that wisdom and astrology, I believe, is tapping into that. Anyway, I believe there was an ancient catastrophe. This geology that we go and look at the stars in is catastrophic. You just don't find this kind of feature everywhere on Earth. And I believe it has to do with massive flooding, the things that Randall talks about, the Younger Dryas impact theory, all that. It's all tied together. Anyway, I'll just show a few more. Here we are in Zion. There's Graham again in the front.
This is in April. I want to know how cold that water is.
Yeah, it's not too bad, actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
but it's still kind of chilly though at night, especially doing the stars over Bryce. It is pretty cold at night.
Yeah, cold.
It gets a little chilly in the shade sometimes during the day, but I think this was probably like 19 or 20 degrees maybe that day. Or does that ring a bell, Dave? Darren?
19 or 20 is freezing, man. What are you talking about?
No, that's Celsius. The right way to.
That's Celsius.
I'm with you guys.
I'm joking. No, this is the Virgin River. This is a slot canyon called the Narrows. We have different hikes in Zion. This is one of the optional hikes. This was like on the quote flex day, where you could go ride 4x4s, or not 4x4s, side by sides with Darren and Brandon, or you could go on this hike, or you could go on various different hikes that people did. But we also have some other hikes in Zion that don't require you to get chest deep in the Virgin River. But this is an amazing, and slot canyons, again, you cannot explain slot canyons with uniformitarian, a trickle of water just trickled through here and just decided to keep cutting straight down.
Years, yeah.
Oh, it just decided to cut straight down and never got any wider. Slot canyon, and this thing gets really narrow, like a slot. And some of them, first of all, slot canyons are not found all around the world. Zion is just absolutely rife with slot canyons. All the slot canyons are found in this part of the world, and I believe it's because of catastrophic forces on our planet that very likely cut us off from that very deep ancient, that's even more ancient than the Egyptians, than ancient India, than the Olmecs. There was probably a culture even before that, but not to get too long-winded. Let me just show a few more glorious pictures. This is also at Zion. Look at that. And just for scale, again, look at these people in the background. I managed to circle, or I managed to catch one. That's one of our Contact at the Canyons participants back there hiking on the trail. These are huge, and they have been formed by massive, look at all the different striations there. This is just powerful landscape. If you want to feel, the awe of nature and the power of nature. So I hope that you can come. There's Brad Young. He and Randall have been exploring geology since the early 90s together, I believe. Brad's still there holding up Zion to keep that rock from falling on the trail. This is one of the trails that we hike on. You can see there's actually a pretty steep drop, and it goes down into it's actually a slot down there. There's like a river cut at the bottom in a steep channel. But we hike, this is one of the hikes we do at Zion, right along through that kind of cave feature. And when you go by, you can tickle Brad and see if he lets the rock down and drops on. He's still there holding it up. He has to stay there as we go by. I'm just kidding. I don't know if Brad's going to be there. Yeah. So this is, I'm just trying to show the power of this. And you can see the power. There's Brandon. He is getting high on rock art. We go see some petroglyphs. You can see some petroglyphs in the background. That's at Zion, a little petroglyph site that petroglyph site that we will visit. And I believe there's a celestial component to this petroglyph site as well. We'll talk about it when we go, and we go check it out. And you can get that feeling that Brandon is showing for us. Brandon is amazing. Brandon leads the breath work. He's a master Wim Hof instructor. He's also a jiu-jitsu master. He's had a black belt, I think, since the 90s. He's got his own studio. He is a real modern warrior shaman, amazing person, amazing man. I saw him on Instagram the other day shooting his bow and arrow in his living room through his kitchen, out the kitchen window and through a target. Did you see that?
I did. Yeah, I did. I've been to his house. It's he's got some crazy setups out there. He's a good dude. And I think when we were in Shasta last month, I think just about everybody got in that cold water at some point. And it was at least 30 out of 40 people.
Yeah, it's totally optional to get in the ice bath, but Brandon is a master. He is there, watching you like a hawk. He's a serious Wim Hof. Like, he's not joking around when he's watching you in the ice bath. He's making sure that you're not going to panic, and he's there to help you. And he's just a force of nature, like Zion. So he's not here on this call. Hopefully those interested will go listen, but really you've got to meet him in person and experience the breath work. The first time we did the breath work, the very first time we did this event, because this will be the third one, I think. The first time, it was so transformative. And Darren, you turned to me and said, no one ever sees that breath work coming. You just don't see. I don't know if you remember saying that, but it's like, well, how transformative can breathing be? I do it every day. I've been doing it my whole life. It's powerful. It's really powerful. As you can see, Brandon's taking a powerful breath right there. I don't know.
Are you going to wear a Speedo in the pool again this year, Dave?
Yeah, that's what men wear. Right?
Yeah.
Well, you surf in your Speedo, I guess, right?
I do.
So
I do surf in
you're
my
just
Speedo.
bringing your surfing gear there.
Yeah. Cold water, man. It's good for you. Anyway, yeah, I think I have a picture somewhere in here, maybe. Getting in the cold water. Nope, I don't.
Well, there's Ophiuchus, though.
Yeah. Oh, all right. You want to talk some stars real quick? So just for those, look, quick taste, we will go out and look at the stars, and I will use the laser pointer to show you constellations. If you've never seen this or that constellation before, no promises that we won't have
UFO sightings,
clouds or something. Yeah. Well, look, it's a desert. It's one of the best places for stargazing. So I am very hopeful that the skies will cooperate. They always have so far. And also, not only do we have one night where we stay out at Bryce and see the stars from a very high point, like elevation 9,000 feet, which is, I don't know, what, 3,000 meters or something. It's over 9,000 feet on the rim of Bryce Canyon. But also, I will get up every morning for, the 4 or 5 people who are interested at 5 a.m. pre-dawn, and we'll look at the pre-dawn lineup of stars if you want to see the stars that are up before dawn as well. But just briefly, look, I think I've shown this before, but it's one of my favorite. This Bell crater used to be on display at the Boston Museum of Fine Art. The last time I went to the Boston, most recent time, that whole wing was closed, and I was like, I came all the way out to Boston to see this one vase. How can you not have it? Anyway, so I hope it's back on display now. But this right here proves this vase, which has been on display in Boston since 1908, because there's a book published in 1908 that talks about how there is no finer example of artwork, perhaps in any ancient, this writer in 1908 was saying how much. His name was John Beasley. He was a big deal in vase study. He called this the pan painter Bell crater name vase. Anyway, not to get off track, he was very impressed by the artistic quality of this. It's been on display in Boston since 1908, and it shows the world that the gods and goddesses of ancient myth are based on the stars. Of course, John Beasley didn't talk about that in his writings about this, but as soon as I saw this vase, I said, oh, wow, that is unbelievable. This is a drawing of it, so you can see, because the curve, you can't really see. This is from the myth of the goddess Artemis and the unfortunate prince Actaeon. He's being torn apart by his hunting hounds. I won't go into the story. I've talked about it in a lot of podcasts, but it is just such a clear example. This drawing shows it kind of flat so that it doesn't curve away. Actaeon is at a specific angle. The goddess is at a specific angle. I'm going to show it to you. Do I need to minimize, or is it
no,
blocked?
that looks good right there. Yeah.
Can you see Actaeon? Because on my screen, on my
Thanks.
screen, okay, me with a large, peace smoking offering is in the way. But anyway, you can see it. That's great. So here it is. I made it a little smaller. Let me show it to you in the night sky. This is the brightest part of the Milky Way, and it really starts coming up at around midnight, the time of year that we're there. So this will be just kind of at the tail end. I mean, we can stay out as late as everybody wants, but as you already mentioned, it gets pretty cold where we're going. We'll see. So those who are coming, bundle up or bring warm clothes. But
this year, it looks like we're going to add a little party van over in the parking lot with
right on.
some propane heaters. The dinner will be up there, so there'll be some leftover food. Right, and there'll be some drinks over there as well, and some music, so people can go back and forth from the point to the
there you go.
Warm-up
Except
party.
me.
So this year we should be able to stay up quite a bit. I think we should be able to stay up there quite a bit later this year.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll stay out at the point and keep pointing things out. But that's great. So and this year it's at the end of April. So yeah, it might be a little cold, but I am very confident that it should be nice and clear, and we should have beautiful views of the stars. And I have a powerful laser pointer to point out these constellations and show them. But what I want to show, this is just by way of introducing to those who don't know about my work. I've been exploring the evidence that the world's myths are based on the stars. I'm going to talk about some constellations just really briefly that relate to, Kesenya knows the significance of all these constellations, but these are zodiac constellations that are depicted in this ancient vase. This vase is from, conventional academics admit this is from 540, 550 BC from ancient Greece. Now, this is the constellation known as Sagittarius. It is a zodiac constellation, meaning the sun and the planets move through the background stars of the zodiac, and that's Sagittarius. And just look at Sagittarius, look back at the drawing of this vase that I showed you earlier. It's a big bell crater, like it's bigger than, a full-size computer. It's big. If you were picking it up, it'd be like, between your arms, you'd have to hug it. And then next to see Sagittarius pointing a bow towards the brightest part of the Milky Way, and then towards the constellation Scorpio. So there's Sagittarius, there's Scorpio. These are important zodiac constellations. And if you look at that artwork from the ancient artist, I want to point out something. I don't know that I've ever shown it on Grimerica before, but notice how the goddess appears to be walking in one direction, but then looking back, pointing her bow in the other direction. This is a very distinctive feature that you see in artwork around the world, and you see it in the myths. Often a woman walking one way, looking back the other way. Now look at the constellation Sagittarius. The reason for the ancient myths about walking one way, looking back the other way, the reason for this ancient depiction of the goddess walking one way, looking back the other way is that's what the stars of Sagittarius suggest. They suggest the motion of walking one way, but looking and actually shooting a bow back the other way. I'll move those arrows. Look at the features that this ancient artist has incorporated. I'm going to put this yellow arrow. The feet are in the same position. The bend of her knee is in the constellation. The length of her dress is suggested by the constellation. The angle of her bow, look at how she's holding her bow. It's kind of almost like sidearm. And the angle of the bow of Sagittarius is very different than the angle of the bow of Orion, for instance. Orion also has a bow, but he holds it at a totally different angle. The tassel here that this ancient artist has included on, it looks like she's holding a samurai or has a samurai sword or something on her back, like in Kill Bill. She's gonna, pull out that sword and start chopping people up. Or maybe it's a quiver for arrows, but it has a tassel on the top. And look at the feature on Sagittarius. There's a very distinctive feature. Sometimes it's envisioned as different things in different myths, but the artist has incorporated it. I would argue this is just conclusive evidence that this goddess Artemis is associated, or was by the artist at least, associated with Sagittarius. And there's other evidence from myth that Artemis was associated with Sagittarius. And there's some significance with that, which I'll just quickly elucidate. Also, look at the angle of Actaeon. She's pointing her bow towards Actaeon. He is angled like Scorpio, and even the little curly Q tails of the dogs kind of suggest the tail of Scorpio. His arms kind of flung overhead suggest the pincers of Scorpio. It's very clear to me that this scene is a celestial scene. But here's an ancient hymn to Artemis. It's one of the Orphic hymns. She was associated, Artemis, and this is proof from this one ancient text, but there's other texts that also mention it. She was associated with childbirth. She was present at the birth of every child. She allowed that child to be born into the world. Here in this is kind of an older 18 or even 1700s translation of this Orphic hymn. There's more modern ones, but so this is kind of a little bit archaic poetic language, the way this is particularly translated from the 1700s. But the hymn is praising Artemis, and it says, "Hear me, Zeus's daughter, celebrated queen, in darts rejoicing." Darts meaning arrows. But the third line, over births presiding. You preside, you rule over births, and thyself a maid or a maiden, meaning you're a virgin. She's a virgin goddess. That's one of the reasons why she was slaying Actaeon. He was staring at her while she was bathing, and she said, "You're not allowed to do that. You can't stop looking at me, can you?" Anyway, she turns him into a deer, and his own hunting hounds chase him down. But so she's very strict and severe goddess, and she's a virgin, but she presides over births. Very interesting. And this ancient Orphic hymn points that out. You yourself are a virgin, and yet you preside over births, virgin births, to labor pangs, imparting ready aid. So when a woman's in labor, the pain of labor, you give help to women who are in labor. And so this is fascinating because Sagittarius is located right next to that galactic center, the galactic core. It's some listeners probably know the Maya talked about the birth canal in the galactic core, but also this is where the stars, at least modern astronomers tell us, this is where the stars of our galaxy are born. But it's also the rebirth point of the new year, where the new year, meaning the December solstice, in the northern hemisphere, the sun goes down, down, down until its lowest point at the solstice, the coldest, darkest day of the year, and then it turns back around. So she is a virgin, but she presides over birth. And look where she's associated with a constellation that's located on the zodiac wheel with the turning back upwards, and in the heavens with the birthplace of our whole galaxy in the core, the galactic core, the birth canal of our galaxy. But it's a virgin birth. This is actually the second birth. This is the spiritual birth. It's not our physical birth. That's associated with a different part of the cycle, a plunge downward point, actually at an equinox. So I'm giving just a hint, I hope, of, I just want to show how profound this amazing ancient system is. And I just wanted to relate it also to the Bible in Genesis. And this is really foundational texts for the whole biblical story of Adam and Eve getting thrown out of the garden. It says that the Lord God cursed the serpent and said, here down at the bottom, I'm going to put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. These are texts that are quoted later on in other parts of the Bible. These are really important texts. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. And this is where the constellation that Graham gave it all away. What constellation are we talking about? He looked at the slides and he said, aha, I see
Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus. So here's Ophiuchus. Now, I'm just proving, I just wanted to show a tiny, tiny bit of evidence to prove that the ancient myths are based on the stars, are based on the constellations, are based on the cycles, the very same cycles that Kesenya talks about, and knows about, like the significance of these parts of the cycle. They're so profound, and it's about us. It's about us on an individual level, on a societal level. But look at this text that I've highlighted. I'll put enmity between thee and the woman, thy seed and her seed, between your offspring and her offspring. Your offspring shall bruise his heel. The offspring of the serpent, shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Bruise head, bruise heel. What is that talking about? It's this particular part of the sky right here, where Scorpio, that's the offspring of the serpent, appears to be biting the heel, or right next to the heel of Ophiuchus. But Ophiuchus is standing, bruising the head of the serpent or the scorpion. It actually acts as a serpent, or a multi-headed serpent in many myths, more than a scorpion. It's Scorpio acts as a serpent. But anyway, I'm just showing this is in the Bible too. And the seed of the woman, the offspring of the woman, there's another constellation right nearby, also an important zodiac constellation, Virgo. She's actually associated with the first birth in some parts of the system, but you can see she looks like a woman on her back, and we will see Virgo when we're out there at Bryce Canyon. And we'll see Sagittarius too, if you want to get up early in the morning, or if we stay out really late and go back and forth to the party van. But Virgo looks like a woman on her back with her legs elevated and raised, which means that that's what a woman does when she is what?
In birth.
What? One at a time, please. Giving birth. And also having sex. So in myths, this is also sometimes associated with stories about sex, because the myths are very, sometimes even bizarrely talking about stuff where you're like, whoa, where did that come from? Well, it came from the stars. But yes, this is how a woman gives birth. Who does she give birth to? Well, Ophiuchus. I know Ophiuchus looks pretty big there, but that is the seed of the woman. I wouldn't want to give
birth to that.
Well, this is how the myths operate. That's the seed of the woman, the virgin birth. This is all through the myths. And what are they doing? Is it just a puzzle? No, they're talking about profound things that have to do with our second birth, has to do with our recovery of who we really are, our suppressed and forgotten and alienated self. That's what they're talking about on an individual level, but also on a societal level. So I'll just end there. I think that is all I have, other than to say, I hope that people can join us. This is, again, I don't know who that guy is. He looks like me, but shorter hair. That's what a year can do to you. But I thought it might be a good segue if you want to, talk about some astrology, or we can save those questions for those who come. They can, but I know Kesenya knows all about things that she could tell us about Sagittarius that I know, that I don't know about.
I love that you were talking about it being associated with birth because of its position in the sky, because 27 degrees of Sagittarius is actually the degree of the galactic center in tropical astrology, and it's we call it in astrology the womb of the galaxy. So again, that verbal tie in there with exactly what you're talking about. So people with that point in the zodiac very prominent in their natal birth chart will have certain characteristics, certain traits that correspond to that idea of birth and newness and brand new life and kind of that sort of thing. So it's beautiful. Lovely how it ties in.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I know you're all set to divulge to all the listeners all the secrets of Graham and Darren if we have time, but I don't know if
let's do it. Let's get into that. Sure.
We have time. Cool. Well, I went through your charts because everybody loves to know what their astrology chart says. So I might share my screen and bear with me a second and we'll jump.
Are those didgeridoos back there, Dave?
Those are actual eucalyptus didgeridoos.
Are you bringing
them? Yes.
Right on.
I am. Yeah, Brandon's breath work is amazing. And last year I brought the didgeridoo for the breath work. And the didgeridoo is all about frequencies and rhythms and cycles. And, it's a sacred instrument. It's didgeridoo therapy for me. I play every day. And cycles of the heavens is what Kesenya's about to talk about. So, and didgeridoos are cycles, frequencies, rhythms. Those good eye, Darren. Those are my two didgeridoos. The top one is a B flat, and that one's a D, and they both come from Australia. Those are both eucalyptus didgeridoos.
Nice, awesome.
Thanks, man.
Do we have time, guys? Like,
let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
Of course.
Sure. Okay. Share screen. So, Graham, I thought we'd start with your chart. Now, I don't know how much astrology you guys know. Much?
Not really. I mean, we've done this before a couple times on the show, but I just can't really remember and wrap my head around it all. I don't really retain a lot of the so it's good to review every now and then.
Astrology is quite a lot of map reading. Actually, this is the map we use. It's a diagram of the zodiac wheel around us, and so I'm a former town planner, and reading maps was a big part of my past life before I became an astrologist. So I love this component of astrology. But what most people know is their sun sign. So if you say, "Oh, what zodiac sign are you?" what we're referring to is what sun sign, where was the sun, what constellation was the sun in when you were born. And you, Graham, like Dave, are actually a Cancer sun person. So born at a very similar time of year. So this symbol here is your sun in Cancer, but you're also a Cancer rising. So we would say you're a double Cancer energy. And so there's three main components we look for is the sun, the moon, and the rising sign. So sun in Cancer, Cancer rising, and you have your moon in lovely Libra down here, that symbol. But when I look at this chart, some of the things that stand out to me, I just thought I'd share a couple of little points, is this piece here. This is Venus. This is the symbol for Venus. And in your chart, it happens to be in a conjunction with Regulus, which is the famous ancient Persian star. It's one of the royal stars of ancient Persia that sits in the heart of the lion. It's known as Regulus, heart of the lion, the constellation of Leo. And very interestingly, what this means in your chart, it's telling you that the second half of your life is going to be very connected to having a strong leadership role of some sort, and being a leader in something that you're passionate about, that you've really, at the heart of who you are. So I love seeing things like that in the chart that tell me, where you're heading and how life's unfolding for you. And it's very, very beautiful that should be the case.
Second half of his life doesn't start for about 10 years, though.
Yeah,
right?
You got heaps of time. Yeah, heaps of time. So you're definitely rising up into more and more of a leadership role, which you're obviously doing already in the capacity of what your career is. But speaking of career, we look at the ruler of your 10th house, and this is for quick astrology 101, each zodiac sign in the system I use represents a house. And a house is a realm of life, a realm of, you know, a house might have to do with relationships or money or career or well-being, that kind of thing. So the realm of the chart in your chart that has to do with career is ruled by the planet Mars, which sits in your first house. So what this tells me is that in some way, your career or your worldly aspirations will come to you. It's like they're foreordained for you to do certain things in this life. You know, you should always use your image, your charisma, your personality, and put that towards what you're doing. You know, I liken it to, I don't know, I'm a fan of Modern Family, and I think of Phil Dunphy in Modern Family, who's always putting his face on a park bench or on some, I don't know, some car or something around town to promote his business. And that's kind of what you've got in your chart, Darren, to put your stamp onto whatever you do. Your identity, your personality should form what you do for a career. Jack Black also has this position in his chart, and that's you know, he has definitely used his charisma to create an identity for himself in Hollywood, you know, in a scene where most people base a lot of their success on, you know, looks and glamour and all that sort of thing. He's put his stamp on his career through his personality and his charisma in that way. So you have that same thing. And the final thing that I wanted to mention that I notice in your chart is you can see, ignore these points that I'm pointing at here, because that's Chiron, the asteroid, that's the north node of the moon. This one is Neptune, so it does have a bit of relevance. But I want to talk about the other planets that we see here mentioned by these symbols. And apart from Neptune, they all fall in this side of the chart. Yeah, I was
going to ask about that. It seems to be all jammed over on the one side.
Yeah, and that is known as the hemisphere of free will. If you had them all on this side, it's known as the hemisphere of fate. And so life is either governed by fate or free will. Now, you get a lot of people debating predestination, you know, was this foreordained for me? Was this determined for me? Or do I actually get a say in what happens in my life? And according to astrology, the truth of the matter is everybody has a mix. You know, you can either have all fate or all free will, or a balance of both things playing out in your life. And in your chart, the emphasis, although I have mentioned that you've got most of your career will come to you. You'll instinctively know what you want to do and what's right for you to do and the path that you're meant to go on career-wise. But when it comes to, you know, everything in your life, you will succeed more by actioning things, taking initiative, you know, whatever you feel drawn to, go for it, because you have the capacity in this chart to assert your free will onto something and make it happen, to make things happen, which I think is really, I love seeing that in a chart. I've got the opposite. I have to just wait for fate to hand me whatever is meant to happen a lot of the time. So this is beautiful. I really admire people who've got the get up and go to make their life happen for themselves. So you should always follow through on impulses that come to you, initiating new things or entrepreneurial endeavors, because there's so much emphasis on that side of your chart.
And you have Thor's hammer, which never misses.
Yeah, there you go. So I do have a question to tease
apart. You kind of look like Jack Black too.
About the leadership part, because it's an interesting thing, because the first half of my life was more in technical leadership. Like I was, you know, coaching hockey, player coach on hockey teams, running departments in corporate sort of business environments, running meditation groups. Like now I'm sort of doing less of that, but maybe it's a different type that maybe you can help me see, because
Dungeon Master, would Dungeon Master count?
Yeah, that would count. So sure. That's more in the second half of my life. So
yeah, I see spiritual leadership, to be honest, and perhaps being a leader in some kind of creative role or film or something like that, like YouTube or something. But this is your north node, and that after the age of 42, that's when that particular node of the moon gets activated in astrology. And that's when we really start to begin a rise up into whatever is our destiny, this particular incarnation. So it's in the sign of Pisces, which is one of the most spiritual signs. And it's in the 9th house of your astrology chart, which is very much about sharing information, teaching what you know, but in a spiritual context.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's what it is that you're rising up into. But this is a lot of leadership power here, this Venus with Regulus, but it'll be in that context of what you're rising up into with your North Node.
All right.
So you're going to be a spiritual guru.
No. No. I mean, maybe just pass on what I'm learning. I mean, that's kind of what I've been doing in the career in the last couple of years, is just learning and then passing that on, really. So
yeah. And even the retreats that you run, I mean, Pisces is the sign that has to do with getting away from the ordinary every day, having escapes, having retreats, tapping out for a while. That's what Pisces is, a sign that governs. And so there's a rising up into maybe more retreats like Utah on the cards for you, as to be the leader and host of those sorts of things in the future more and more. I love it. Maybe you have to come to Australia, more foreign retreats, and do a retreat out here.
Maybe. Well, thanks. Maybe. That's great. Yeah.
Darren, your chart, so I've just jumped over to your chart. You have Taurus as your rising sign and the moon in Taurus. So that makes you a double Taurus, even though you have a Pisces sun, which, happy birthday just gone for Pisces season.
Thanks.
And I know that you turned 42, and it's so interesting because in astrology, that's such a significant number. And I just mentioned when I was looking at Graham's chart, why? Because the North Node of the moon in Vedic astrology is considered to mature at age 42, when we begin in earnest a rise into our destiny. Up until that maturation phase, a lot of the time we are still learning what we want to do, or trying this and dabbling in that, and we kind of realize, hang on, this is what I really want in my life in our 40s, and we tend to move into that more. So hence, when the North Node matures, we tend to move into what our real soul purpose is in this incarnation. So when I look at your North Node, which is just down here, it's in whole sign astrology, it's in the 4th house, which has to do with home, community, family, and tribe. But in the Campanus system, I might be confusing you with all these terms, but for those who are listening who know astrology, that's what I'm mentioning all this for. It happens to fall in the 5th house. So this to me says that there's going to be in the latter part of your life sort of a rise into maybe being some sort of creativity, some sort of celebrity or recognition, or like I said, creativity or joy that you can do from home and from a home base. So I don't know what you do, like whether this is your main full-time career or if you have something else, but certainly as you get older in the second part of life, which we consider starts from age 42, I see that more recognition, like I said, celebrity, but something that you can do from home. I don't know how accurate that description might be of where you're heading or what you're feeling called to.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I do still work full time too. I contemplate that from time to time.
Yeah. When I turned 42, I was given a wonderful opportunity to work for a big astrology YouTuber named Astrology, and she's a very dear friend of mine. And that was kind of like a rocket launch for me into what is now my full-time career, because that was quite a few years ago now. So now I look back and I see how significant that was. But at the time, it was kind of like it felt like a gentle unfolding even though I look back and think that was very significant what happened to me in my 42nd year. So you might look back on this year of your life, I think, and feel like, that really set things up for where I am now, or what, what I've become, or how life's unfolded for me. I'm just going to quickly assess something. Oh yeah, so you have a very healthy ruler of your North Node, and that to me indicates the potential for quite a significant rise at some point in this year of your life. The North Node takes about 6 years to fully mature until you're 48. So at any time in the next 6 years, there could be this rise more into purpose, into destiny that I have alluded to. But you'll know, trust your instincts, you'll know when the time is right. But another thing, just to wrap up here, that I find really, really interesting in your chart is that the eclipses, there's a set of eclipses coming up in April, May, one on the 20th of April. It's going to occur at 29 degrees of Aries, which is right here. So within locality of this very important axis in your chart. So I think that whenever we have an eclipse on our ascendant, it's called in astrology, that heralds a big life shift and a big life change that will come in. So from April the 20th for 6 months after that, because eclipses are active for 6 months until the next set of eclipses occur, there's likely to be some significant event or experience that could really change or redirection your life in some way. Maybe you meet somebody, a collaborator for your work, or for Grimerica show or something like that, that really, powerfully rocket launches things. I see partnership in some way having something to do with the significant event that might occur. But that's quite exciting to see that. I think eclipses really, they're part of the universe's mechanism for pushing us forward into where we're meant to be, because eclipses are caused by the nodes of the moon. The North Node and the South Node are what causes eclipses. And as I've alluded to already, that they're part of our destiny. So often we get an eclipse that will either kick our butt and make us get on track with where we're actually meant to be to fulfill our destiny, or if we're already heading there, we get sort of a lot of support from the universe to keep going, opportunities and blessings to take us further into whatever our destiny might be. But that's an exciting thing coming up this year for you. You're in quite a busy, active astrological year this year, Darren. So there might be a lot of changes on the cards, I think, in your life coming up in the year ahead.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a good start. So
excellent. That's great.
So it starts the same day the event starts.
How about that? Where the event, I didn't even put that 2 and 2 together, but we've got an eclipse happening. I don't know whether it's visible in America. Do you want me to check that out?
It's a new moon. Yeah. So we always try and have the events on a new moon for the best possible stargazing.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not so a new moon would only produce a solar eclipse. It is not going to cover North America. If you think about a solar eclipse, just for the listeners, the moon is smaller than the sun. So when there's a lunar eclipse, you can see it over almost over a huge amount of space. But a solar eclipse is the shadow of the moon. A lunar eclipse is the shadow of the Earth. The Earth is blocking the sun from getting to the moon. So because the Earth is bigger than the sun,
bigger than the moon.
Said that wrong. The Earth is bigger than the moon, smaller than the sun. The shadow of the Earth covers the moon, and you can basically see the moon in shadow from anywhere. But the sun being smaller than the Earth, it casts a shadow almost like a rifle sight. It's just going to hit one dot on the Earth, one little dot of the moon's shadow. And then as the Earth turns through that dot, it'll make a line. And Darren and I went to the last solar eclipse to cross North America. And without any coordination, I drove literally 15 hours, longer than 15 hours, because I drove for like 2 days straight to get there. And Darren drove like, maybe it was 15 hours. Anyway, we both drove like this insane distance and ended up like 5 miles from each other or 3 miles from each other. We both picked a spot along that line where we're like, oh, this is a good spot to watch the eclipse. But I think the next one will be in Texas, in North America, that's visible. And we'll be doing
a big old event.
Snake Bros, yeah, at the Snake Bros Ranch.
Like a huge event.
Yeah, big shindig for the
festival.
Total eclipse. Total eclipse is mind blowing. So there will be a eclipse of the sun that day, but I don't believe the rifle dot in the Earth's turn will bring that shadow across North America that day.
Solar eclipses in astrology, which is the new moon eclipses, are considered to affect the leadership, the kingship, the presidents, the rulers. And so you often can see a change in leadership occur as a result of the eclipse in a sudden, shocking way. Whereas the lunar eclipse is connected to the masses, the hoi polloi, you and I. And so it stands to reason that, more people see lunar eclipses, it's more connected to the masses rather than the sun. Sun rules kingship in astrology. So very interesting. I need to look into what was the effect of that solar eclipse across North America in 2019 on the rulership, the leadership. It would be an interesting bit of research to look into.
For sure. Let us know.
Well, maybe you can let us know when we all meet up in Utah in like 4 weeks from now.
Yeah, love to.
5 weeks, might be 5 weeks.
I think it's less than 4 weeks now. It's I guess you're right.
It's 4.5, yeah.
Yeah, because today's the 16th of March and it's starting on the 20th of April.
That's right. And if people want to get in on that, they head over to contact@thecabin.com, click on that Contact at the Canyons button at the top. And there's a few spots left at sort of all levels. So we can get you in. We can get you and your significant other in. It's a great couples event if that floats your boat, stargaze and all that kind of stuff. Let us know. Email me if you want to figure that out. Where can our listeners dig into more of your guys? And thank you very much for the star charts, Kesenya. Appreciate it.
Nice. Thank you.
Hopefully it's a good year.
Yeah.
And where can our listeners track your guys' stuff if they want to do some more digging?
Well, I'm on YouTube under my name, Kesenya Moore, KESENYA MOORE, or I have a website, guidingstar-astrology.com.
Right on. My stuff is at theundyingstars.com, and it's Star Myths of the World. So I have like all my archives are on starmythworld.com, which I believe is also my Instagram, Star Myth World. And so that is how you can find me, or come to Utah if your intentions are positive. don't hopefully none of my enemies know where we go. I'm just joking about that. Look, I hope that this is, this message is positive. I hope that all the things that we shared are positive, and I'm really looking forward to this event. Thanks, Graham and Darren, for coming up with this idea years ago and making it become reality. Now it's become reality, and it's a great event. Everybody goes away from this event feeling really good. I hope, because it's like you're able to just hang out, like I said, let your hair down. You're among people who, we may not all believe all the exact same things, but we're able to talk about things in ways that you might feel, a little bit ostracized talking about in other groups. It's like just a really great vibe, and that reflects you guys and the good vibes of Grimerica. So
oh yeah, you'll have times where all of a sudden you see a group of people and everybody's talking about their UFO sightings out of the blue, and then people are talking about their astral experiences or just whatever, asking all the cool questions that we always ask on the show. It's It's amazing.
It's a good time, and we'll feed you, we'll weed you, we'll wine you if that's what you want, whatever you want. You know, we're getting to be pretty good at throwing a party. You just got to show up, and we'll take you from point A to point B, pick you from that airport, take care of you for 3 days, and take you back down the mountain, drop you off at the airport. It's looking cold this year, so you might get to play with some snow, but it don't matter because the canyons are always hot.
Those water baths will be cold.
They'll
be
cold.
Frozen when you get up in the morning. Yeah.
You just break the top of the ice little thing, and you get the fuck in. All right. Dave and Kesenya, I cannot wait to hang out with you guys in a few weeks' time. I will meet you in Las Vegas.
Thank you. And thanks for having me on your show today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that was fun. Thanks.
Enjoy it. Thanks.
All right, everyone. Guys. Come back anytime.
See you in Utah.
All right. Hitting the leave button.
Thanks,
See you guys. Thanks, guys.
And that was our chat with Dave and Kesenya. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, that was great. Dude, I was thinking back to my 42nd. I was like, what happened to me in 40? And it was 2012, like when we started the podcast. I mean, what an important year that was for me now, looking back like 11 years later.
The possibilities.
You know, I was the possibilionist genome back then, you know?
This obscure commenter.
But I mean, look what happened though, right? I mean, the possibilitist. I mean, that's what happened. A ton of possibilities opened up. So I was manifesting it then.
And that happened when you turned 42?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that year was 42. In the middle of that year, yeah.
I wonder what I'll get siloed with this year.
Yeah. I wonder.
Right on. Well, head over to contact@thecabin.com, guys. We want to hang out with you guys next week. I know a bunch of people that are going out there are going to be great already. It's going to be fantastic. And we hope to see you there. Contact@thecabin.com. It's the cheapest event to get into. And the way the world's going, you might want to come this year. If you're thinking next year, the year after, I mean, it's just getting weirder and weirder every fucking year. Just come this year. Just fucking come this year. Contact@thecabin.com. Grimerica.ca for everything else we're up to. And then we love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week.
Sending out good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that. 108 breaths of deep